Hi, and welcome to Whole Soul School and Foundation's Mind, Body, Spirit, Fitness podcast series. I'm Marie Mohler, and I'm an author, intuitive, and a messenger of the Rising Hero's Journey. And I'm here today with Renee Taintor, who's going to be joining me. She is a blog writer for the foundation, and she's really seeding and giving us a language that many people have forgotten. It's the language of the heart. It's the language of the heart, mind, body connection, right? And how perfect to be talking about this in our mind, body, spirit, fitness podcasts, because it is a time of deepening our integration inside of ourselves. Our mind is not separate from our body, and they're not separate from our spirit. And when we start connecting with our heart centers and with the wisdom that resides inside us, our ego minds don't have to be as scared and afraid of everything and trying to protect us all the time. We actually can be in our presence, right? That's where presence lives, in our hearts. And Renee, you have been so amazing in every single writing that you shared with us in the past many months now. People can go to our website at the foundation and you can bathe in these insights that Renee is streaming through. And I thought for the month of February 2022, who better to be talking about these times of integration, while I can also feel these are times of triggers and a bit of chaos and confusion and stress. A lot of people are feeling that too. So as we start this new year, we're still at the beginnings of 2022. I think it's important for people who are seeking something different. They might not even know what it is that they're seeking. But if you have bounced into a podcast like this, some of the messages that we're going to be sharing today are for you. So Renee, I want to welcome our listeners. First of all, I want to thank you, Renee, for joining me. And I do want to share that the title of this most recent these writings is God is the Love That Powers the Universe. And you've been talking to us about the heart, and you've been talking to us about building these connections and remembering who we are. And so maybe you can lead us off a little bit about what you felt you were writing about and sharing.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here, Marie, again. And all the listeners can relate to the fact that your life is a journey of discovery and discovering how to navigate through humanity, navigate through your own mind and your own heart. And I think it's the moments where we're feeling uncomfortable and maybe we feel a little out of control or we don't know what to do, and we pause. And those are the teaching moments, I think, that Spirit gives us to want to find ways to be have more skills to navigate through humanity and ourselves. And so I've always been about love, and love just makes everybody feel so good. And as you learn, God is love is one of the definitions of God.
Right.
And there's just no doubting that. And so I wanted to I just wanted to remind people that they are immersed in the flow of God's love. You can't not be in the flow of love. I like one of the sayings, I've seen it a bunch of times. It said, if God seems far away, guess who moved?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it wasn't God. So
It's good.
I've been very grateful to have found tools that have really served me in being able to navigate through humanity. What's the part that we want to work on the most is the part where you're uncomfortable or you're stressed or you're having anxiety and you're depressed or whatever, and you're mad and nothing's going right and all that. And so instead of seeing how things are just happening to you, you need to see how you have power to respond in ways that will serve you instead of make you miserable. And so in this latest blog, I wrote that learning the the sources of your thoughts.
Yes.
It's easy to think that you have one source, it's your mind. That's where your thoughts come from. But in my many years of experience and diving into this and getting clarity on it, I've kind of separated the reactive mind from the heart mind. And you could call it the ego mind and the divine mind, because love lives in your heart, you know, and your heart isn't going to generate things that make you feel bad, that give you anxiety and stress and stuff like that. Right. Your heart is the place you go to for refuge and for seeking the tools that are going to help you in this moment with whatever's going on in your life. Wow. And so I do a little bit of explaining about how the reactive mind is just that. You react. And many people it's so automatic that you don't know you're reacting. It's such a pattern in you. And not only that, look around, the entire society supports it. All you have to do is turn to even a stranger and say, can you believe? And then next thing you know, they're upset too. So it's right. And I haven't gotten too much into the definition of energy game, but I do call it that it's all about managing your energy. And until you realize that you are in charge of that, instead of thinking that, you know, if your boss was only a better person, if your children only treated you right, if, you know, whatever, you need to become conscious of that, because there's the reactive creator that is unknowingly most of the time giving service to the thoughts and patterns of reaction to that reactive mind. But over here, if you're a conscious creator in your heart mind, if you're aware of it, then you can choose, you know. And what I did mention is that your guide to determine which source your thoughts are being generated from is how you're feeling. If you're stressing and you have anxiety and you're like freaking out and whatever else, you are not in charge of your life in that moment. Your reactive ego mind is running the show. And I did point out, which is extremely important in my walk, and mind you, all the stuff I'm saying, this was not a 2-week process for me, people.
It was a life journey.
This is years of figuring this out and going, what happened, man? Okay. So there is a law of the universe called like attracts like. It works with people, it works in physics, it's science, like attracts like, you can see that. And so what I learned and observed is that if you have a reactive thought pop in your mind and going, oh, terrific, this is just great. And now you are reacting and you're feeling the emotions of whatever it is. If you stay in that space long enough, in your mind, in your consciousness, other thoughts will come flooding in to support that. Just like this. The first thought is, oh, this is just great. Oh, I don't need this right now. Thought number 2. What am I going to do now? Thought number 3. Oh, and then you're like, so because you are giving energy to this,
yes,
the universe is going, oh, okay, you want more of that? Like right. That.
Because you're the magnet summoning it in. And I was going to fit. There was another third or fourth thought, which is like, I give up, which goes into the victim consciousness. Now everything's happening to me. You're fully on board with that because you're flooded with all the emotions and you are just magnetizing more unfortunate and unpleasant things, which then confirms as a habit that life is hard.
But if you don't know that you're doing that, right. I like to say, and I've heard you say it, and I've heard other people say it, you don't know what you don't know.
It's true.
You try to tell people that they have a mindset, a reactive mindset, and most of the time it's running the show for you. How do you explain that? Or they go, oh, no, I don't think so. No, I'm fully in charge, right? No. But then as you start building, so you don't need to build your reactive mind. It's been there. I mean, you've been building it your whole life. But now you want to build a divine mindset, a heart mindset that have thoughts that turn the tide on your emotions. You have thoughts that support you, nurture you, expand you, guide you. You know, and in the blog, I gave the example. If the first time I ever did this, I thought, well, let me pick a big one. God is omnipresent. And
no small thing, Renee.
Yeah, that's huge. In fact, most people don't know what that means, but which means everywhere present. So I use that as an example, and I could see how like attracts like was working, because I said, God is omnipresent. What does that mean? God is omnipresent. Oh, well, God is everywhere present, all at once, all at the same time. So if that's true, then God is all around me all the time. Thought number 3. So these thoughts are coming, and it's building a picture. It's building a mindset. And if you stay with it, you keep going. Well, if God is all around me, God's in me and in all things. And if that's true, then you can't go anywhere where God isn't. So if that's true, see how it's building, and
yes,
it's expanding on its own. These thoughts are coming to me. I'm not making them up. I chose to focus on a living thought, a living God thought, because these are living.
yes,
They will always serve you, always, 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 unlike the reactive mind that will, kick you while you're down. Yes. And you can verify that for yourself. So
your
then,
patterns, your pain
yes,
verifies it and confirms it every time.
Yeah. And so the final thought, at least at that first time I did that if you can't go anywhere where God isn't, then, oh my gosh, everywhere I rest my eyes, I see God. Well, if that didn't send me through the cosmos, because then I was just looking around everything in my house and everywhere you go. And when you hang on to things like that long enough, you end up going, there's God in that person over there. That is a divine human over there. And that's what I started doing at my job. I was seeing everybody as a divine human. And when you see that, it changes the energy around you. It changes the energy around the people that are in front of you. And then you end up getting fed by the heart mind that you chose to give your attention to. And so in the beginning, of course, you have to be patient with yourself, because when I was first doing this, I could feel my reaction moving up here. And then God told me, back up until the picture is big enough to where you can respond from your heart and not your reactive mind. And so then
powerful. That is powerful.
Right. The feelings would dissipate because I knew what I wanted to choose. I don't want to, not only do I not want to feel stressful and anxiety, I don't want to be the person projecting it on the other person. And then they take it home with them. And so instead, you have this crossroads that you're at when something comes towards you. And I mentioned that in the blog, that you end up becoming the manager of your life's energy. And so you can't do that if you're just going to react. You've got to be aware. You got to be conscious of your feelings as they come up. You can't do that overnight. So, but then, ask for help. Ask and you receive is a law of the universe, God's law. It's not ask and maybe you will receive.
Right.
It's ask and you will receive. And so when you trust that, you like open that flow, and here it comes. I have thousands of examples of that working in my life. And so it's become first nature for me. Not that I don't have my reactions, but it's a better way to live, because you if you're feeling really not good or stressed or whatever, you just go, whoa, what did I buy into? Right. So you back up in your mind and you go, oh, that's where that started. And then you get to choose again. You just go, okay, no, I'm going to stop that. And in the beginning, I have a beautiful friend I was talking to today, because I've been showing her these things, and she's going, I knew I was reacting, Renee, but I couldn't stop. It was so loud and so strong. And, I had to get up, and I'm walking around, and I'm, doing this. So I was explaining to her that in the beginning, when I would feel something like that, it was so strong to me. Why? Because these thoughts are so used to us giving them life over and over and over, activating them, listening to them, embodying them.
They're constant companions
Yes.
in our journeys until we find a way to perceive differently, to make our picture bigger, like you're saying.
Right. And so I said to her, listen, in the beginning, like I am traipsing around my house, almost yelling to myself, I don't want those thoughts. I'm not going to listen to them. But they're like in my face doing this. So I literally did this the first time this happened. I'm going to fold the clothes. And I was out loud monitoring the whole thing, going, wow, doesn't it to get these thoughts to move away from me, right? Oh, wow, it feels so good. These warm clothes I just pulled out of the dryer. And I love folding the washcloths just like the way my mom did. And, oh, here's a t-shirt. Let me and I'm going to smooth it out. I mean, I was like desperate to get those thoughts away from me.
Yes.
Because if you're basically training yourself and your reactive mind. No, I'm not going to give you attention. I'm not. So it's,
and the attention, I just want to be clear, when we give it our attention and we give it our focus, we are giving life, we are feeding it.
Right. And the reason why is because we are creators made in God's image. We can create, we can destroy, we can create with words, destroy with words, we can destroy with weapons and stuff, and we can create beautiful things. We are creators made in God's image, but we never think of it as, can I create my own peace of mind?
Right.
Can I bring this peace of mind with me wherever I go? And I'll tell you what, it's a nice way to live. And when you practice this and you become that conscious creator, you're channeling God's love, because that's what it is. And so in a situation, if people are like wanting to yell and stuff like that, you just go, how can I help you?
Right.
You
can only do that when you're in that place of presence, which comes from your divine mind. Our ego is always, this, and we've mentioned this in other podcasts, but it's always in different places in time. It's always in the past, worried about, how that's going to chase it and the catastrophes it remembers, or it's worried about the future, that what the past was is going to become the future and you're going to have to live it again. Right. And the ego is anywhere but the present.
The ego's in the past or the future. And so you will get familiar with this. This is a process, what you're basically doing. And I actually went into my ego mind and kicked out certain thoughts. I kicked out a lot of thoughts that had to do with me getting less than, me getting older, I just started saying, no, that doesn't serve me. That doesn't serve me. And I just started kicking these thoughts out. I actually wrote them down, cut them up in individual things, had a little ceremony, and burned them. but I also had a whole
Wow.
other list of God thoughts, divine thoughts, and I folded them all up and blessed them, put them under my pillow, and slept on they were under the pillow for a week or whatever.
Right? These are the things. Sometimes it comes intuitively, like you're talking about, where you just feel a sense of how do I need to move this energy? Those old thoughts are coming back up. They are my habits, they are my companions. We don't need to even judge them and say,
Right.
wag our fingers at them. We can just say, oh, look, it's you. We know who you are, right? And
Oh, thank you. Bye bye.
right, right, exactly. But acknowledging that, yes, you've been a part of me. Yes, we've been journeying together. And it is time for us to maybe go our own ways. And maybe
Right.
you go through the process of, with Renee, it might have been writing them down, cutting them up, having a ceremony, and burning them as a symbolic but an energetic way of clearing some of those out. But there's lots of ways to do that, and people can listen to their guidance system
Their own
about
guidance.
how they meet it. But what we are definitely talking about too is the importance of a kind of neutrality in your presence. Of course, when you start doing this work and you start paying attention to what you give life to in terms of your thoughts, you're going to see some thoughts that are fun and fabulous, and you're going to see some that you're like, oh, do I actually talk to myself that way? Do I actually think those thoughts? They might not be things, they might be really automatic thought patterns that you don't even realize you're thinking or engaging, but they're there when you take a look and you shine a spotlight on them.
Yeah, and
And
you
when you,
ask God to help you show those to you.
yes,
And then
and
you can deal with them one at a time.
you can deal with them one at a time. And I find what helps is a combination of having a sense of humor, if that can work for
Oh,
people. That goes a long way in the healing process. And,
it,
and,
it
and a
is.
good deal of humility that knows when you embark on this journey or this part of the journey, and really looking at your language and your self-talk and the thoughts you have, is a lot of compassion is going to be required to allow those thoughts just to exist in your awareness for a little bit. And then you say, okay, we've had a reunion, it's been good, right? And just like high school reunions, or however many years out, there's always the nervousness, and then then you get to this point of reconnection where I do know this is familiar. I'm glad we had a chance to catch up. I'm glad, it's good to see you. You've changed a little bit, right? And we have these with our thoughts, or that you haven't changed a bit. That's another thought we could be having, because that's what habits are. You haven't changed at all. You're still thinking the same thought. Whichever that is, we can use a little bit of humor and a little bit of humility and some compassion for ourselves to say, every single person on the planet has this going on inside.
That's
And
right.
it runs you until you decide, like you say in your message, your most recent writings, that you become the manager of your thoughts, and you begin to direct the energy of your perceptions, your perspectives, and what you're really giving life to. And you begin to be the conscious creator of the life that you do want to be living.
And you'll do steady by jerks, which is usually how these things go. But you realize that the energy comes to you from outside people reacting with you, or it comes from inside of you. And so you've got all this stuff that you're trying to juggle. And one of the things I was doing in the beginning is that I would just sit with these thoughts, and I would sit on a chair next to a train on a train track, and the thoughts were separate from me, and they would just go by, and I would just look at them go by, and I wouldn't give them time. I would just go, okay, that next.
Wow.
And then in order to, and the humor is really good. In fact, accepting my humanity, accepting your humanity, accepting my divinity, accepting your divinity was a very much part of this process for me. And one of the things that God gave me for two one-liners that I still use that help you to lighten the load on yourself when you're coming face to face with your humanity. People apologize all the time for being human. Did you really mean to knock that glass over? No. oh, I'm so sorry. Oh my God, I feel so bad. And then you feel bad for like weeks or days or whatever. And so God just said simply, oops. Oops is one of my one-liners.
So good.
Oops. Oh, I feel so human right now. That's my other one. I feel so human, but if you accept your humanity, you're going to accept everybody's humanity. And then that's when you can see that all the people around you in the whole world, that's where they are in their movie. This is where you are in your movie. You don't really have to know anything about them to disengage in that energy game and be the love that you want to be in whatever situation you find yourself in. And it's, let me tell you something, you don't have to think about it. If you connect to your heart will lead you. Here's an example that Spirit gave me. You just put your groceries in the car and you look over and this little old lady just dropped all her groceries on the parking lot and her bag broke. You don't lean up against the car and go, should I help her? No, your heart did this and you're halfway across a parking lot before you even know what you're doing. That is the way the heart leads you. The heart leads you all the time. You just maybe don't recognize it. And then you don't, and I happen to grab an extra bag I had in the back of my car. Oh, hi, honey. No, here, let me help you. I'll bend down and get the groceries. So are you having a good day? And I'm doing all this and connect with her and put the groceries in the back of her car. And when you do that and you live that love, it's like you are receiving it at the same time you're giving it. That's how it works.
It is a reciprocal blessing.
Yes, and it's a fabulous. I'm so grateful to have, and I didn't like stumble on this. Trust me, I was asking for help. A lot. Yeah.
And that's that energy, though, of asking is always given. You asked for the help, and the help came in the form of these insights and these guidances. And when you put into practice, whether it's coming through you or it's coming through a podcast like this, but when you hear thoughts that feel better than what you're presently experiencing, right? You are the one that gets to make the choice to let it in. We all have the ability to receive in these ways.
Right, we're the creators. We get to choose what we want, And another law that I put in my divine mindset is everything works together for good. If we live in a benevolent universe and God is everywhere, then that means we have to see it as, it may not feel good, look good, act good, or you may not see a solution, but if you know that everything works together for good, then you can remain in that neutral state. And then the other one that I have that goes with that is there is always a solution. And God showed me that. You say, I need a solution. You ask for what you need, and then you let go and become like a little child, and you don't stress over it. You enjoy the moment, what's in front of you, and sing along with the song, help somebody do this, make your dinner, wash your clothes.
You're talking about moving energy. So some people wallow. I mean, we all have, and we all do from time to time, because we might have gotten hit with some energy or something that was unexpected, or something's triggered us and we go lower for a little bit. But the key is movement, and you can move in lots of different ways, right?
Right.
Just going outside or taking your dog for a walk, or like you're saying, washing the dishes, taking a shower, doing the laundry, getting up and physically moving that energy so the heaviness doesn't have a place necessarily to take root inside you, while you get your bearings of shifting this consciously and choosing just the next better thought that you can feel, while you may change the doing that you're doing, right? It's a combination.
That help comes to you through the consciousness and love of the divine heart. I swear, this is what I learned, that you ask for help, you connect to your heart, and your heart reads the energy around you, like this, and then you automatically do what's needed to be done. whether you back off, whether you jump in, whether you say something or don't say something. And you really are being led and guided by that beautiful divine love and light. It's so true. That doesn't mean you're always going to know what's going on or you're going to falter or whatever, because you do. But now that you know what tools you have and the access you have to the divine, doesn't that blow your mind that in your heart, in your body, is the infinite connection to God, God's wisdom, God's light, God's love, God's breath, God, everything. It's, it sure is better than thinking the universe is against you.
And you know how you can tell what's true is whether the universe is against you or whether the entire universe is for you, is how you feel. When you say that, and then you feel the feelings, you say it and then you feel it. And you allow yourself to breathe in that space, and you have an awareness. When we don't feel good, when we say things that we actually a lot of times don't mean out of reaction or whatever, when we feel lousy or we feel stressed, it's the quote that you shared initially, is that basically God didn't move, you did, right? And those thoughts that make us feel pain, they are our mentors really in this journey, as if to say, not feeling so good today. Well, we can change that, right? We have different choices of what we can do. We're in a familiar pattern in our world culture today that bonds in the wounds that we share. And that's what you also, I think, have referenced in a number of your writings. There are these familiar patterns that could want to say, I got up and I realized I was out of coffee this morning, and then I stumbled into the car and somebody cut me off in traffic. And there's this whole series of events that begins to be the story of your day, but it may just be a repeat of some things you've had going on in your life for some time.
Right.
And you realize that I'm the one thinking these thoughts. I'm the one engaging what's in front of me. And I think you touched on this, Renee, but when you were in your journey and when you were struggling and suffering with how you felt one day at work, and you called out, and like you did many times, but that was a significant moment for you when you called out and you wanted to impact the world around you more than it was impacting you.
Absolutely.
Right? In a positive way, right? You wanted to be, basically what that means to me, is a force for good instead of being the victim of what's around you. That is this, I call it alchemy. That's this shift in perspective that many people are in a process right now. I think we're all in a hero's journey right now. We use the language of Joseph Campbell, right? But it's a universal language. He's not the only one that's known about the hero through the centuries. It's a universal story. And we are the hero of our own lives. But a lot of times, heroes, before they become the embodiment of their courage and strength and, all that sovereignty and the good things that we all desire, we don't realize that we're the one that has to take the journey. We're the one who has to make the change. And the most powerful and the most lasting change that I've seen over the years in myself and my family members and in people I just know or you see in the world, it's when it's experiential. When in the moment you're being triggered from north, west, east, south, right? From every direction sometimes. And you have the awareness and the humility to say, wow, like that is overwhelming. That is a lot, where you could turn to each one and have a duel with the north and duel with the south and the east, and you have a duel with all the directions. Or you can take a breath and say, oh, in all those scenarios, the common denominator is me. And it's my perception and how I choose to work with this energy. Am I going to repeat it and replicate it and continue the pattern one more day, one more hour? Or in this moment, and am I willing to be completely overwhelmed or stressed or angry or sad or guilt, feeling guilt and whatever that is, and saying, these thoughts aren't really the truth of my spirit, of who I really am. They're part of the experience right now. And I may have summoned in that experience. That might be a stretch for some people to realize they summoned in these experiences by their energy and their vibration and their thoughts. But it is something that when you become an observer of your life and others, you'll see how people talk out their wounds throughout the day, right? And you get to say, gosh, I join in that all the time. I participate in that. I grow that story to live another day through all of us. And I don't know that that's the life I want to be living. So we're the ones that have to manage our thoughts and be kind of in the, I don't know if I'd say control center, but the divinely guided center inside ourselves, the divine
Driver's
mindset,
seat.
the driver's seat.
You want to be in the driver's seat. You can tell by your feelings. What am I feeling?
Right.
And and there's times I don't care. I want to engage in the energy game. Bring it on. So you have to accept yourself in those moments, because don't forget, you are divine and you are human. So
You are both.
yeah, you're both, and you do a dance between the two like this. But the goal is to be living more from your divine side. And so in the beginning stages of this experience for me, I would literally, if my ego was like feeling reactive and I had the time, I wasn't in the middle of work or something, I would just say, okay, let it out. I want to hear all of it. Don't sugarcoat it. Let me have it. And so then I would just, let it out, let it out. Is there anything left? And this is my heart talking to my ego. Okay. My heart is allowing my human side, which is my divine side, allowing my human side to experience, to cry, to rage, or whatever's going on. And then you just say, okay, I hear you. I get it. How do I get it? Because I'm you. And so, but you have to know that we're going to always lead from the heart. The heart is where the actions and the energy is always going to be generated from, because that's what I choose. I choose love. I choose the divine. And so after I did that a whole bunch of times, I honestly feel like my ego got to the point where she knew she could say whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted, no matter how long, because I was going to listen and I wasn't going to judge her.
Yeah.
But that she knew that because I was now conscious about this, that the actions and energy that was going to be generated was going to come from the heart, because that's who I am. And so I feel like that developing this relationship, instead of saying bad ego, bad. No, it's a part of you.
Yes.
And so you need to be like the loving parent to your ego and say, okay, how are you feeling? What are you doing, honey? Are you, whatever. And it works. And then I didn't. And one day I realized I'm not having so many reactions from the ego. And then this is the other thing I learned, this huge, that because I was always projecting this love and choosing to disengage in the energy game and choosing love whenever the situation was, there were fewer and fewer and fewer situations where I had any negative energy. And, I was a flight attendant at an airline, and
for 36 years.
36 years, you're going to have situations, and I didn't even notice it until it was a dawning awareness, because I was carrying that love. I was projecting it. I was seeing every person as a divine human, even if they didn't. And I didn't realize that awareness and holding that is a vibration. It is a vibration that goes out from me out there.
And it's a vibrational habit of changing vibrational habits. It's something that becomes a new kind of habit that actually serves you.
It serves you, and then you end up feeling better. And you end up, if something happens to you, you don't get so riled up. Not that stuff doesn't happen, but you have the presence of mind, the presence of the heart mind.
Yes.
So
wow.
To be able to say, you pause long enough, because here comes the energy. Now, this is the analogy Spirit gave me. If you're a conscious, if you're a reactive creator, you're like the ball in a pinball machine. Boing, 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 boing. Something happens at work, you go home, you spew it all over your husband, and then your friends, and and then this happens and that happens, and you're just constantly doing this. But when you're a conscious creator, you're walking a straight line, and things come towards you. They come towards you, they rise up inside of you. But because you're conscious, you're not going to react with your reactive mind, you're able to say, okay, let's take a look at this. Let's connect to the heart. And then, after a while, you're always connected to your heart. You're more connected to your heart than you're not. And then when you're not, you can certainly tell, because you've got all these negative emotions. But then when you're conscious, then you can give yourself the luxury of asking, what do I want to create or co-create in this situation or not? What? And then when you ask your heart, your heart will give you the answer. There's some things you ask your heart, you need to wait a few days, a few weeks, a few months, a few years. But then when you're in situations, you need an answer right now from your heart, you got it. You got it. And it's like when it started happening like this, I would get to my hotel room on a layover, and I'd go, what just happened? Is this true? And what I learned is that the laws of the universe don't work on alternate Thursdays. Okay. They work 100% of the time. And before anything came to be a law for my heart, it had to work 100% of the time. And it does, because that's what God's laws are for. Knock and the door is open, seek and you will find, ask and you will receive. As a man thinks, so he is. And so all the laws were made for us, but that we're so busy going, wah, I don't like this. I'm too little to do this,
Right. Well, and we've had like a global stretching or global stressing in this last couple of years, that maybe those were more subtle patterns inside us, but maybe we've noticed we're more of those negative emotions than we used to be. And I'm not saying that's the case for everyone, but for under this amount of stress as humanity and the world has been in, it wouldn't surprise me. And yet also in the gift of this living universe would be these teaching moments, and you're the student of them. And so where you could shove those things under the rug and be like, that's not me, and just set it aside. Now there's just been too many things pulling us in so many different directions and pushing truth to the surface, that if those things that are unpleasant are a part of you, they're coming into your awareness more and more.
It's like you said, I heard this a couple of years ago from you, that the light is summoning all of us back to itself. And whereas you used to be able to slip it under the rug or ignore it or walk by, or,
it's too bright.
You can't, because anything that is not in divine harmony with love and light, God's love and light, will come to the surface for you to look at, whether you like it or not.
Absolutely. And it is the person who can see themselves through compassionate eyes. It's the person who learns the way of a kind of self-humility. We learn how to move in this new way. We learn how to see challenges through different lenses of perception. And over time, it softens. The life inside us and the life around us softens, where everything doesn't feel quite so prickly anymore. And we don't feel as stressed. And one of the things that I definitely wanted to say, and I know we'll probably close this out soon here, Renee, but you don't have to wait till this massive avalanche is like pummeling you down, right? No, you can practice with little things where you have the option, like you said, to help the lady with her groceries, or to just pause a second and hold the door open for someone, and maybe even make a little bit of eye contact that acknowledges that you see them, right? Not everybody, but a lot of people like to be seen, especially now where there's been a lot more isolation and other things. We are a humanity that is needing to practice skills again of what it's like to be together. Because as we moved away from God, we also moved away from each other.
Exactly. And what the saying, all things work together for good, that means all people work together for good. You will find connecting with people easy everywhere you go. Just make a comment, love your hat, or you're in line at Costco and you go, oh, I didn't know that. Do you like that? Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, we get it. And you just connect with people, and everybody is so open. And I've said before, be the first one to connect.
Yes, it's such a great,
You will be surprised. Everyone will just like, oh, and they're open, and next thing you know, you're laughing and carrying on. And there's way more beautiful people on the planet than might be thought of.
yes,
There's way more. And I've always said for years, there's a handful of people that are creating the problems for the rest of humanity.
yes, that's true.
Because why people just say, we just want to raise our kids, live in our house, do our jobs, have our parties,
Get through it.
and love each other. And so it's if we see that more and be that change, then we're part of bringing that, anchoring it on our planet.
Oh, we totally are. And we can be these agents of change, these instruments of change. But the hero also goes through a journey of recognizing inside themselves that it's them, it's you that has to walk through these experiences. It's you that when you want to turn and snap something back to someone out of frustration or fatigue or whatever it might be, you have that moment when you can take a breath and you can just give yourself at least like a 5-second pause before you fire off those reactive words you might have otherwise said. And you might just choose a whole different outcome of that scenario that
When
touches.
you recognize you're at the crossroads,
Yes.
you need to recognize that you're at that crossroads where you're either going to do reactive mind or conscious mind, heart mind.
Right. Heart mind, divine mind.
Divine mind. And it is, it's a process.
Well, we need these reminders because we're all in it. I call it in my messages and my other videos that I make. Sometimes I call it the sea of vibrational soup. We're in the soup of all that energy a lot of the time, but we can actually realize we have an arc, or we have an inner arc, or we have a boat. We have other ways to travel in
Right.
these energies. And what I love hearing from you, Renee, it's so consistent. It is who you are, is that when you step up and give yourself permission to go higher, to choose a higher version, to choose a more heart-centered response to something that is challenging, you give other people permission to do that too, to meet you in that better feeling place, other than the lower experience that was on its way to being created out of those wound patterns that I think are pretty threaded throughout humanity.
It is.
And so it is giving ourselves permission to experience what we already are, that we think we've forgotten.
We already are.
But that we will be again, we're becoming it again, right? We're coming around.
It takes so little to love in the moment. It takes so little. You don't even have to go, okay, so I'm going to be here. So like, what am I going to do? No, you connect to your heart and you trust that your heart reads the energy and will give you. Your heart has its own consciousness. And, the studies of Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton talk about the brain cells in the heart that are not connected to this brain. It's God's messenger. It's God's organ of communication for love and wisdom and all of it. That's pretty wild when you think about it.
It is pretty wild. And it's not something that is taught, and it's not in the mass consciousness to know that. But in people like us, we see this in people's awareness. There is a higher consciousness inside you that has been communicating the whole time. Right. And when you're giving, and all of us have done this before we became more conscious as creators, when you're automatically or by default giving your energy to all the stuff that you have to keep reacting to, there isn't that as much energy that you feel
Right.
you have available to do the nice thing, to go the extra mile, to just help somebody in just a moment of need that it was easy for you to do. Because people are just heads down and they're just barreling through their day, just trying to get through the day because that's their experience. But the more, I've said this so many times in so many different podcasts. It's amazing what like 5 minutes in nature will do to set your heart in the presence of you, the higher version of you, that God spark or the living universe. People can use whatever language that they know is God, especially for us right now, you and I, we're very comfortable with the word God, but somebody else might say this benevolent universe. Somebody else could say the living light, right? Somebody else could have other language for that God presence inside them. But it, whatever that is in the language for you is, it's so sacred inside and it's yours. And it's just either dormant and, kind of rusty, a little bit rusty. You just have to oil those gears a little bit and it's right there.
And I think it's first nature for a lot more people than we think. I said that in the blog.
Yes.
Because I have seen people, when you connect with them, they were like down, and then
Yes.
you connect with them and they lit up. So it's there. And so the last thing I wrote in the blog was, you are your presence
Mm.
of the omnipresence.
Yeah. Omnipresence. That's
Are
another word,
you
right?
are your presence of the omnipresence. So if you're a piece of God, God is the omnipresent, but you have your presence of the omnipresence. And then that's the part that you can connect to God and live through God and live as God. Because
Yes.
when you channel that love, you're being no less than Jesus,
Right.
and that is the miracle.
It is the miracle.
That you can take that divine human that was doing all these reactions, and then spirit led me out of that energy game. I mean, the energy game doesn't go away.
No, it's still there. And we still get triggered.
Yeah,
And
I
even
had
if
to
we
be
do
learned
use,
conscious.
and even if we do have a moment where we do become reactive, the words are out before you had a chance.
Right. Oh
You
yeah.
can
Well,
you can shift in any moment, and every energetic shift for the better helps all of us.
right.
Right? So powerful. Well, thank you. I know we will do this again. I invite people to go to our website because you can see and you can really, I take in a lot when I read something as well as when I hear it. And so that multi-sensory way of learning and embracing these new understandings or this new language, and walking in new ways and allowing new vibrational habits to take hold and for you to embody them. So I invite you to come to our website at Whole Soul School and Foundation. You can see more of Renee's writings there. She writes every month, and we're so grateful. And the way that you embody it, Renee, is such a living example for all of us. And that's what happens. One spark, one candle lights another, right? That's what we do. That's what we do here at the foundation, at the Whole Soul School and Foundation. And you can listen through your favorite audio podcasts like Spotify and iTunes. And you can find us on your favorite video streaming platforms as well. So thank you for joining us in this latest podcast for Mind, Body, Spirit, Fitness. Renee Taintor, thank you again.
Thank
And we'll
you.
see you soon.
Pleasure.
Blessings, everyone.